Dobry dien and greetings from Odessa on the shores of the Black Sea. Got the iconic Opera House just behind me here in the historic center. So in this video I'm going to give you an overview of what it's like here on the ground in Odessa. This is for my geopolitics channel, Geopolitics from Ukraine, with me, Connor Klein. And if you're new here, I have a background in international relations. I've been living in this region for over a decade and speak the local languages and worked for a while as a lawyer at the EU institution. So I'm here to give you a more nuanced, informed, and interesting view on the happenings of the Russo-Ukrainian war. And this update video, I'm going to just explain to you what is life like here in Odessa on a daily basis. As you can see, we got this beautiful weather. This is actually really the last day that we're going to have this. It is really autumn. It feels a little bit cold. I've taken off my jacket because I'm just about in the sunshine here. And up until a few days ago, we had this beautiful weather, over 20 degrees Celsius every day. Now it's a bit cooler, and this will be the last day that we have this weather. And winter is slowly coming, and that means the cold weather. What does that mean on the ground here? Well, in past winters, Russia has targeted Ukrainian energy infrastructure, which in part has the result of Ukrainian civilians being without running water, without electricity, so without the lights, without heating. In the depths of the winter, obviously it gets very cold here, so that can be quite a major issue. However, in practice, with the exception of the winter, the very first winter since the invasion, so it's winter 2022/2023, the problems have not been super bad here in Odessa. There were many days back 3 years ago when I woke up and we had no running water, no electricity, and it was a major inconvenience. But over the last few years, Ukraine has become more adept at repairing its energy infrastructure and keeping the lights on, so to say, for the population. Here in the ground, there is curfew in Odessa from midnight till 5 a.m. That means you cannot be out on the street without a justification. As a result, most places close at 11, so it is very quiet at night. There isn't much of a reason to be out. Of course, you could be at some sort of establishment that's open, but then you wouldn't be allowed to exit and be on the street legally until 5 a.m. So most people are not going to do that. As a result, people, when they socialize, they tend to socialize earlier in the evening than before 2022, because they know that places are going to close around 11 at the latest. Most things work if you come here on the ground. So we just had a summer where we've had, I think in my apartment, maybe twice for a few hours electricity went out or running water went out, but really it wasn't a major inconvenience. Your cards work if you're a foreigner. You can change your money today. Money changers, the ATMs work, internet works pretty well. I have to say that Starlink has been used more and more as an alternative, but even just with the Wi-Fi on the phone, it is pretty good in the cities. A little bit weaker than it used to be when you get out into the countryside, but overall it is not such a terrible situation with respect to connectivity for Wi-Fi. Cafes work, restaurants work, bars work. Basically everything works as before, and there's just as many establishments, I would say, as pre-2022 in the city center. Harder to say if you get outside or you go to a smaller town. And in general, life goes on pretty normal within the constraints of curfew. And of course, there are periodic attacks by Moscow on the cities, like here in Ukraine. In the last month or so, we've had maybe, I think it was about 2 major attacks using drones and rockets that were in large number. And that means that many people, if not most people, during those attacks are going to go to an air raid shelter. Normally people are going down to the basements in their buildings or somewhere nearby, and they stay there until they get the all clear. In general, when there are air alerts, very few people react, because you can see in your phone also what the threat level is. So unless they perceive it as a significant threat level, then they're probably not going to go to a shelter. Be different with people with small children. They tend to go all the time, a lot of them, just because they're worried about the safety of the children, not to take any risks. However, if you're getting several air alerts per day, then it is quite disruptive to your routine if you keep going to the air raid shelters. So in general, people have adjusted to life under Russian attack, which has been the situation since 2022, and they make the best of it. And the economy is still functioning pretty much, but we do have those interruptions when you're going to have curfew, a few outages, and of course, Russian attacks, whether they happen to be legitimate military attacks on infrastructure, military infrastructure, or let's say legitimate, at least within the rules of war. Of course, the whole war is illegitimate and illegal to start with. And also they attack quite regularly civilian infrastructure. I was almost a victim of it myself the summer ago down in Arcadia on the seaside when Russia fired a cluster munition onto the prom in the afternoon, a bit of an afternoon like this, beautiful weather, and it killed many people who were out just walking or jogging on the seafront like I was. I was actually jogging, but fortunately I went to the left, not to the right, and therefore I was not caught up in that attack. So you do have this mixture of problems coming from Russian attacks on civilians, target civilians or accidentally hit civilians, and curfew. Otherwise, in general, things work. It has at least the appearance, a facade of a normal country and society until that is interrupted, normally by an air alert or some attack. And otherwise, people are still going, still resilient. It is quite remarkable how we can adapt as human beings to the new reality. However, a lot of people have a lot of stress from being here, especially if they've never left since 2022. They're under constant psychological strain because of the war, and this does have an impact on people's mental health. It is quite clear that, and people may be very, very sensitive to certain topics, especially if they've had family members or people they know who have been badly affected by this illegal war by Russia on the Ukrainian people. So yeah, that can be something that you need to be aware of, that even if there is this facade, as I said, of everything being normal, that a lot of people are suffering because of that. Maybe a family member has been killed, maybe they've been injured, maybe they have someone who's serving, they know someone serving in the military and they constantly worry about them, plus they have to worry to a certain extent about their own safety on a daily basis. So that is what it's like here on the ground. We are now heading into the winter. I guess this will be the fourth winter of this phase of the Russo-Ukrainian war, and I think the comments by Donald Trump the last few days where he is envisioning, at least in principle, that Ukraine can win and retake all its territory has boosted morale a bit. Of course, the US president tends to flip-flop a lot. He spent most of his second term saying that Ukraine doesn't hold the cards, emphasizing that diplomatic debacle in the Oval Office right at the beginning when he took over. However, he seems to have changed in the last week or so, so there are reasons to feel more optimistic from the Ukrainian point of view. If you are coming here to Ukraine, of course, be cognizant of the increased risk level. On my lifestyle channel, I've discussed how on a per capita daily basis, the chances of being in the wrong place, the wrong time with a Russian attack is about 1 in a million. However, you should not be cavalier with your own safety. And there is, from what I can see, reported statistically a lot less crime in Ukraine than you're going to see in the United States. So the chance of getting robbed or having a violent attack from a criminal is extremely low. Most crimes are solved, in part because there is martial law here in Ukraine. So the authorities have more powers than they would in peacetime to stop people and check their documents and to pursue them if they've committed a crime. It's not just about pursuing people who may be involved in some sort of espionage or some sort of activities against the interests of the Ukrainian state. And as a result, it is remarkably safe outside of those attacks, but you need to make that decision for yourself if it is something that you're going to be able to cope with, and of course be also aware that there might be a psychological impact to coming here that you will have to deal with, especially if you talk to a lot of people who might be under stress. If you are planning to come, please do your best to document your trip, put it in your own social media. You can be a mini micro influencer yourself and keep the Ukrainian cause in the minds of your social circle, friends, family, etc. If you're coming, spend your money here. That helps support local businesses. And if you're prepared to go further by supporting a humanitarian cause or the defense of the country, even better. And if you would like to help support this channel, I guess, indirectly and benefit from my knowledge of being here, I have a guidebook that I'll link down below in the description to this video that also has a hospitality guide. So for cities that are far from the front line like Odesa, Lviv, Uzhhorod, Chernovtsi, and Kiev. I have my hospitality guide, so cafes, bars, restaurants, and shisha lounges, etc. That will save you a lot of time and also help you find the best places to enjoy your stay here in Ukraine. So, with that said, I will conclude today's update on this glorious afternoon in late September from Odesa, free Ukraine, hero city, and do побачення, слава Україні, до перемоги.